The icy winds of a bitter November evening whispered secrets through the concrete canyons of New York City, a place where the remnants of ancient magic still pulsed beneath the veneer of modernity. It was in this collision of past and present that Ellen's journey began, a tale of love, betrayal, and redemption that would forever alter the course of her destiny. Ellen strode along the avenues with measured determination, her dark eyes reflective of inner storms and hidden secrets. In a city bristling with the vibrancy of urban life, she felt isolated by a burden too vast to share. Her life had been a labyrinth of half-truths and veiled histories ever since her family's legacy had been shrouded in mystery. Whispers of an ancient pact, the curse and blessing of being a shifter, had always hovered at the edge of her consciousness. That evening, as the autumn chill danced with the neon glow of downtown lights, Ellen received an unexpected summons. The elegantly embossed letter, handwritten in a script that hinted at tradition and authority, bore the seal of the ancient clan. It was an invitation, a summons to a clandestine meeting in the outskirts of the city, where the wilderness reclaimed a piece of its primordial vigor. With trembling anticipation she accepted the call. There was a magnetic pull towards the unknown, a promise that beyond the icy distance lay truths that could shatter her confinements. At the appointed hour, Ellen's pulse quickened as she arrived at an abandoned warehouse on the fringes of Brooklyn. The building, worn by time and the weight of countless unspoken histories, served as an unlikely stage for revelations. Inside, the air was charged with anticipation. Candles flickered along stone walls, casting dancing shadows, and in their light, a solitary figure emerged, Torvald. Torvald, the enigmatic alpha whose cold vow had both entranced and tormented her. Clad in tailored leather that accentuated his formidable presence, he exuded a compelling mix of danger and allure. His reputation as a stoic leader, one who upheld the ancient code with unwavering resolve, had always placed an invisible barrier between him and the tenderness he might harbor. Yet for Ellen, that barrier was precisely the challenge that ignited her relentless hope for change. Their eyes locked, and the silence was quickly pierced by the soft rustling of fabric and the tension of unspoken words. Torvald's voice, deep and resonant, broke the quiet. "Ellen, you honor us by coming." Her throat tightened as she replied, "I seek answers, Torvald. Questions that have haunted my nights and colored my days." There was a pained flicker in his gaze, as if memories of a long-forgotten promise stirred within him. His presence, both comforting and chilling, conjured conflicting sensations of longing and apprehension. The Alpha's vow, his promise of eternal cold detachment, had isolated him, leaving him both revered and isolated among his pack. As they settled into a circle of antiquated furniture beneath the soft glow of moonlight filtering through fractured glass, the meeting took on an almost sacred ambience. Around them, relics of the past, a faded portrait of a forebear, an ornate dagger with runes etched along its blade, hinted at a lineage steeped in both glory and grief. The historical weight of their ancestors pressed on each participant, transforming the conversation into a ritual of reclamation. Torvald's tone shifted, laced with a vulnerability rarely seen by those around him. "I have sworn an eternal vow, a cold promise that binds me, a protection mechanism forged to prevent the pain of loss. Yet, as I stand here, I wonder if that resolve has only kept me from truly living, from truly feeling." The revelation sent tremors across the room, like the distant echo of a glacier cracking under pressure. Ellen's heart pounded. She recognized the plea within his words. It was a message not solely for his own liberation, but also for hers. In the raw edges of his confession lay the potential for shared redemption, if only they could dare to break free from the shadows of their pasts. Their conversation deepened as the night matured. Ellen recalled childhood memories of secret meetings, where her mother whispered about the family's intertwined fates with the shifter clans. These recollections were punctuated by the revelation of a document, a diary containing cryptic notations and symbols, that hinted at a betrayal so deep that it had set the family's fate in motion. "There is truth here," she murmured, laying a fragile hand on the diary. "A secret our bloodline has guarded with such ferocity that even the Alpha's vow could not temper the sting of betrayal." Torvald's eyes hardened momentarily, as if the mention of her past had awakened old regrets. "Our clans were bound by a deal," he stated slowly, "a pact to maintain order between our world and the realm of the supernatural. But somewhere along the line the trust was broken. Lies became currency, and now, the very foundation of our existence trembles with the weight of unspoken truths." Their dialogue was punctuated by reflective silences, a shared understanding that their fates were not theirs to command. Instead, they were subject to ancient forces that demanded sacrifice and resilience. As the minutes slipped by, passion mixed with sorrow, and the room became a crucible where the elements of destiny, honor, and desire converged. In a particularly poignant moment, Ellen's voice quavered with both anguish and determination. "I have felt that there is more to our story than the surface shows. Every lie, every hidden secret, it's as if they are all threads in an intricate tapestry. If we could only unravel the strands, perhaps we could rewrite our destiny." Torvald stepped closer, his imposing frame softened by the raw sincerity in his eyes. "Perhaps you are right," he replied, his tone echoing with both hope and resignation. "We have been prisoners of promises made in ice. But what if the key to our future lies in daring to melt them?" Their conversation took on a hushed urgency as they began to share memories of fleeting encounters and stolen moments, a careful dance of intimacy interlaced with the unyielding chains of duty. Each word and glance carried the weight of centuries of expectation. It was as though the very air around them vibrated with the energy of destiny, drawing them together against the relentless backdrop of an unforgiving world. Amidst these whispered confidences, an unexpected voice cut through the quiet, a reminder of the external pressures that threatened to shatter their burgeoning connection. A third figure emerged from the shadows, Rowan, a close confidant of Torvald and a keeper of the clan's ancient secrets. His presence was commanding, with a tone that brooked no argument. "Torvald, this meeting was not solely for personal reflections," he declared, his voice echoing with the authority of one who had seen too many betrayals. "There is danger looming, a force from our past that seeks to unravel the fragile bonds we hold dear." Rowan's words sparked a shift in the atmosphere. The fragile warmth that had begun to kindle between Ellen and Torvald now faced the chill of impending betrayal. "What threat do you speak of?" Ellen asked, her voice a mixture of curiosity and concern. Her eyes locked with Torvald's, silently pleading for the truth, a truth that might save or doom them all. Rowan stepped forward, producing an ancient map that detailed a network of hidden enclaves, secret passageways, and ruins that barely withstood the ravages of time. "Long ago, our clans were fragmented by discord," he explained, tracing his finger along the faded parchment. "A betrayal so deep, it split the world we knew into shadows and light. There is a force, a remnant of that treachery, that now seeks to reclaim its place, to enforce a destiny written in blood and ice." Tension mounted as the trio absorbed the implications. The conversation, which had once dwelled on intimacy and the possibility of breaking old vows, now faced the grim reality of an external enemy, a specter of vengeance from the forgotten annals of time. Torvald's stoic mask began to falter, replaced by a turbulent blend of duty and despair. "If this is true," he murmured, "our struggle is not solely for our personal redemption. It is a fight for the very soul of our people." Ellen felt the weight of his words like an avalanche. Torn between the magnetic pull of her heart and the dread of what lay ahead, she knew that the path forward would force her to confront her deepest fears. "Then we must stand together," she declared, her voice resolute. "We must rediscover the lost fragments of our history, confront the betrayals of our ancestors, and unlock the secrets that bind us. Only then can we hope to melt the cold chains of destiny." The discussion took on a rapid, fervent pace as plans were drawn and roles assigned. The three formed an alliance, an uneasy trinity of passion, duty, and reluctant hope. Outside, the city's urban heartbeat drummed in sync with their rising apprehension, blending seamlessly with the wild cadence of the natural world that lay just beyond reach. Every heartbeat echoed the promise of transformation, each pause laden with both meaning and menace. As the midnight hour approached, the trio disbanded with a resolute understanding. Their next steps would lead them deep into the wilderness of forgotten lore, where every shadow held a secret and every whisper carried the weight of centuries. Ellen, with her diary clutched to her chest as both a talisman and a testament, left the desolate warehouse with a mind swirling with questions and a heart ignited by determination. Just as she reached the threshold of the building, a sudden chilling howl sliced through the quiet night, an echo that sent shivers down her spine and summoned ancient memories of fear and longing. The sound resonated in the depths of the urban maze and beyond, as if heralding the impending collision of past and present. In that suspended moment between heartbeats and history, Ellen knew that her fate, and the fate of those she had grown to care for, was sealed. A new chapter of revelations was poised to unfold, carrying them inexorably toward a destiny that none could have foreseen. With the horizon of mystery now stretching out before her, every footstep carried the promise of answers yet to be discovered, and a chilling reminder of the dangers that lay hidden in the darkness. The revelation that echoed through the cold New York night was only the beginning, a spark that ignited flames of hidden pasts and forbidden truths. In the following hours, as the city's lights blurred into an abstract backdrop, Ellen's mind raced with a whirlwind of emotions. Every step she took was measured, as if treading on shards of a broken promise. The spectral howl that had cut through the silence still reverberated in her ears, urging her to delve deeper into the abyss of secrets that haunted her bloodline. Back in her cramped apartment in Lower Manhattan, Ellen found herself restless. The diary she carried, its pages brittle with age and secrets, beckoned her to revisit forgotten memories. She settled by a rain-streaked window, the urban chaos below a stark contrast to the ancient call within. As droplets slid down the glass, each one seemed to carry the weight of whispered legacies and ancestral regrets. Lighting a small lamp, she began poring over the diary, decoding runes and symbols that intertwined fate with betrayal. Her thoughts drifted to the enigmatic Torvald. That meeting in the desolate warehouse had unveiled layers of mystery, but it also posed questions that burned in her soul. Who were these ancestral figures who had once woven their destinies into the modern tapestry of her life? And what price would she pay to know the truth? Her hands trembled as she traced a particularly cryptic passage, a verse alluding to a hidden sanctuary beneath the city. Legend spoke of an underground passage where the spirits of the ancient shifters communed with the mortal world. Its existence was dismissed by many as mere folklore, yet to Ellen, it hinted at the possibility of redemption, of reconnecting the severed bonds of her lineage. As dawn crept in with hues of soft blues and pale grays, Ellen received an unexpected call from Rowan. The message, brief but laced with urgency, instructed her to meet him at a secluded cafe in Greenwich Village. The note had a dual quality. Its brevity demanded immediate attention while its tone suggested that more secrets were ready to be unveiled. Ellen accepted, feeling both the thrill of impending discovery and the dread of the unknown. The chilly morning air seemed to mirror her inner turmoil as she hurried through the awakening city streets, her breath visible in the crisp air. At the cafe, Rowan's presence was as imposing as ever. Dressed in a muted tailored suit with hints of antiquity in his accessories, a silver amulet that glinted when light hit it just right, he exuded a controlled intensity. He wasted no time on pleasantries. "Ellen," he said, his voice carrying a weight that belied casual conversation, "our paths are converging in ways that even the ancient texts could not have foretold." His gaze was piercing, searching her face for signs of readiness. "I've uncovered something that could redefine the boundaries of our world, a revelation that forces us to question everything we thought we knew." Curiosity and foreboding danced in Ellen's eyes. "What is it?" she pressed, her voice barely above a whisper, yet firm in its resolve. Rowan leaned closer, ensuring that their conversation remained shielded from prying ears. "There's a meeting of the elders next week," he confided, "in a location hidden beneath the city hall. For centuries, the grandmothers and grandfathers of our clans have safeguarded the true history of shifters. If we attend this gathering, we may finally learn why your family was marked by betrayal, and why your destiny is so inextricably linked with Torvald's." His words sent shivers down her spine. The magnitude of what he suggested was clear. Attending such a gathering meant confronting forces from a bygone era, forces that could either offer salvation or plunge them into deeper chaos. Yet, the glimmer of hope in Rowan's expression was hard to ignore, a hope that the answers they sought lay behind the veil of ancient wisdom. Later that afternoon, Ellen found solace in an unexpected place, a quiet public library tucked away near Central Park, an oasis of calm amidst the modern maelstrom. Surrounded by rows of dusty tomes and manuscripts, she immersed herself in research, seeking any fragment of history that could connect the dots. Hours melted away as she deciphered cryptic illustrations and faded letters. A particular leather-bound volume captured her attention. It recounted an ancient legend of a sacred relic, the Heart of Winter, said to possess the power to unbind frozen souls. According to the text, the relic was once in the possession of a revered shifter leader, a guardian whose love had once melted the harshest winter and warmed the hearts of many. However, with betrayal and the passage of time, it was lost, its whereabouts forgotten in the labyrinth of history. As she took meticulous notes, a soft, melodic chime from the library's antique clock punctuated the silence, a reminder that time was both an ally and adversary. With the day waning into twilight, Ellen's thoughts were interrupted by a phone call from Torvald. His voice, as distant as it was intimate, resonated with a trace of uncertainty. "Ellen, we need to speak," he said, the pause laden with emotion. "I have received word from a trusted member of our clan, a warning of dangerous alliances forming among those who dare to challenge the ancient order. If our secrets are exposed, the consequences could be catastrophic." His urgent tone forced Ellen to close the leather-bound volume. Was this the same looming threat Rowan had hinted at? Could the elders' gathering be the spark to ignite a firestorm that might engulf not only their lives, but also the delicate balance between the supernatural and the mortal realm? "What do you propose?" she asked, trying to steady the rapid pulse of her heart. Torvald hesitated, as if weighing the magnitude of the decision. "We must be cautious," he finally replied. "Strength lies in unity and calculated risk. But the time for half measures is over. I am prepared to confront whatever forces may emerge, even if it means jeopardizing everything I've vowed to protect." Their conversation drew to a close with a sense of daunting finality. Ellen was left with more questions than answers. The interplay of duty, legacy, and the desperate need for reconciliation teetered on the edge of uncertainty. With the echoes of Torvald's words still resonating in her mind, she resolved to meet with Rowan once again, to piece together the fragments of a history marred by deception and bloodshed. That night, under the soft glow of an impossibly bright moon over the city's skyline, Ellen arranged a secret rendezvous in an abandoned subway station. A relic of a bygone era now overgrown with wild ivy and echoing with faint memories of a lively past. The station, dimly lit and evoking silent specters of the urban underground, provided the perfect backdrop for their clandestine meeting. Every drip of water off the ancient tiles conjured images of past glories and lost legacies. It was here, in the hollow heartbeat of the city, that Rowan revealed his most disquieting discovery yet. In a hushed tone, as if speaking in a language meant only for those entwined with the supernatural, he revealed, "There are factions within our ranks who believe the relic, the Heart of Winter, has been hidden right here beneath the city, in a secret vault guarded by forces beyond our control." His eyes darted around nervously, ensuring that no eavesdroppers could compromise their alliance. But the revelation comes with a price. To retrieve the relic, we must confront not only external adversaries intent on exploiting its power, but also the dark reflection of our own failings. The ancient texts speak of an unbreakable curse that will befall those who dare disturb its resting place. Ellen's mind whirled with the implications. Was the curse a mere myth designed to instill fear, or did it mask a deeper, more insidious reality that could destroy them all? "If the relic is real," she murmured, "it might be the key to breaking not only Torvald's eternal vow but also mending the shattered bonds of our fractured past." Rowan's lips twitched into a subtle, enigmatic smile. "Hope can be dangerous, Ellen. It blinds us to potential sacrifices, and sometimes it leads us into the jaws of irreversible fate." Their exchange was abruptly interrupted by the distant rumble of an approaching subway train, a sound that resonated like a harbinger of rapid change. The darkness around them seemed to stir as if the station itself sensed the impending conflict. In that claustrophobic moment, the weight of destiny was palpable. Ellen felt the pull of history, the magnetic force of fate drawing her into a spiral from which there might be no return. Returning to the surface later that night, the city was transformed by a muted, spectral glow that hinted at metamorphosis. The urban sprawl became a canvas of chiaroscuro, where modernity and ancestral echoes coexisted in a fragile equilibrium. Amidst this surreal backdrop, Ellen found herself pondering the duality of her existence. In the heart of the metropolis, where skyscrapers clawed at the heavens and alleys whispered of forgotten secrets, the conflict within her raged like a tempest. There was a yearning for connection, a desperate need to defy the constraints of destiny no matter the cost. In a quiet moment of introspection over a steaming cup of coffee at a midnight diner, she recalled an old adage passed down through her family: "Only when the past is embraced can the future be rewritten." Her mind returned to the diary and the cryptic passages hinting at redemption through reconciliation. Could the Heart of Winter truly offer them the means to shatter the cold chains of ancient vows? With each sip, the answer seemed to teeter on the edge of both promise and peril. Determined to seize control of her own destiny, Ellen convened an urgent meeting with her closest confidants, a mix of family members and trusted allies, each carrying scars of a legacy marred by betrayal. In a secluded loft near the Hudson River, the atmosphere was charged with both hope and trepidation. Under flickering candlelight, voices rose in passionate discourse. Among them was Marcus, her estranged cousin whose loyalty had long been questioned due to past transgressions. His conflicted eyes betrayed a desire to redeem himself, yet the burden of guilt was evident in every word. "We have lived under the shadow of secrets for far too long," he said, his tone a blend of penitence and resolve. "It is time to reclaim the truth, even if it means facing the ghosts of our past." The debate turned heated as old wounds were reopened. Accusations of betrayal, of decisions made in the name of pride, mingled with pleas for forgiveness and the promise of a new beginning. Amid the clamor, Ellen's voice emerged clear and unwavering. "This is not just about salvation," she declared. "It is about embracing who we are, flawed, scarred, but resilient. We must act decisively if we wish to defy the curse that has haunted our kin for generations." Her words resonated, instilling a fragile sense of unity amid the discord. As the night deepened and tensions simmered, plans crystallized, a daring expedition to retrieve the relic from beneath the city. Yet, as every member of their clandestine circle contemplated the risks, a chilling announcement over a hidden radio broadcast shattered the fragile calm. The message, distorted and urgent, warned of escalating activity from a rival faction that sought to harness the relic's mysterious power for dark purposes. The voices crackled through the static, each word intensifying the sense of imminent danger. Before anyone could fully process the warning, a sudden power outage plunged the room into darkness. In that moment, fear spread like wildfire. The assembled group, now in a state of chaotic confusion, scrambled for answers. Candles were hastily relit, casting a trembling glow on anxious faces. The confrontation was inevitable, their carefully laid plans now under threat from forces both seen and unseen. Outside, the bustling city had transformed into a battleground of light and shadow as emergency vehicles raced toward unknown disturbances. The fragile alliance, forged in the crucible of shared hardship and fragile hope, was now teetering on the brink of collapse. In the ensuing pandemonium, Ellen clenched the diary close to her heart as if it were a talisman against the encroaching darkness. Every instinct screamed for her to retreat, yet another part of her was driven by an unyielding determination to unearth the truth and shatter the chains of destiny. In the midst of the turmoil, as voices of warning merged with the cacophony of the urban night, a solitary figure emerged from the darkness at the loft's threshold, a figure whose presence was both unexpected and foreboding. Marcus turned sharply, eyes widening in disbelief. The newcomer, cloaked in shadows and mystery, stood silent for a moment before speaking in a tone that sent chills down every spine. "You have awakened forces beyond your control," he intoned, each syllable laced with equal parts warning and grim prophecy. "And the road ahead will demand more than mere sacrifice." As the words echoed in the room, the palpable tension reached a breaking point. The assembly understood that the journey to reclaim their heritage was fraught with dangers that could unmake them completely. With hearts pounding and minds racing, Ellen realized that the key to saving both herself and her kin lay not only in uncovering ancient relics but also in confronting the darkness within. In that charged moment of uncertainty, the fate of an entire lineage balanced precariously on the edge of a knife. Every secret, every betrayal, and every whispered promise now coalesced into one singular question. Could the past be rewritten before it consumed their future entirely? With the city's skyline as a distant beacon, and their resolve uniting them in the face of insurmountable odds, the next steps were poised to alter the fabric of their existence irrevocably. Uncertainty gripped the air, a tangible force as dense as the night itself, as they braced for the onslaught of revelations and betrayals that awaited in the labyrinth below. Amid the swirling chaos and the echo of prophetic words, one immutable truth emerged. Their destinies were inextricably linked, and the impending confrontation would decide not only the fate of their world but also the very essence of who they had become. Ensnared by the intertwining of fate and desire, the city's lights flickered like fragments of a half-remembered dream over the rain-soaked avenues of Chicago. The cold interplay between ancient magic and modern existence became more pronounced with each passing moment. Ellen's soul felt burdened by the weight of secrets both old and new, as if her heart had been marked by an insidious prophecy, one that foretold a reckoning between the forces of destiny and the flames of redemption. In the quiet aftermath of the tumult at the loft near the Hudson River, Ellen awoke to a somber dawn. The bitter chill that had gripped her during the previous night seemed to have followed her into the new day. Her eyes, still heavy from sleep and worry, were drawn toward the relic of hope that lay open on her bedside table, a faded yet resilient photograph of a family long estranged, whose smiles now appeared like echoes of lost promises. Its edges, worn with the passage of time, whispered stories of bloodlines, honor, and unspoken betrayal. That photograph, a memento of a gentler past, served as a stark reminder that redemption might yet lie in the courage to confront one's history. Over breakfast in a modest diner that overlooked the river, Ellen sat immersed in thoughts that blurred time into a singular narrative of heartache and determination. The clink of coffee cups, the low murmur of early morning conversations, and the occasional hiss from the espresso machine served as the soundtrack to a day that had already begun to unfurl its mysteries. Though the urban landscape outside beckoned with the vibrancy of life, her inner world was beset by turmoil, every heartbeat a thrum of ancient magic and every shadow on the wall a ghost of lingering regrets. Meanwhile, Torvald, whose presence had remained enigmatic since their fateful midnight call, was journeying through a labyrinth of introspection and duty. His path, winding through the sprawling suburbs of Chicago, led him to an abandoned industrial district that had once thrived with hope and now echoed with lost memories. There, in a crumbling building reclaimed by nature, he sought solace among relics and abandoned dreams. Here, amid the silence of forgotten machinery, he allowed himself a rare moment of vulnerability. In whispered reflections, he considered the essence of his vow, a vow that had once promised stability and protection but now threatened to imprison him in a perpetual state of isolation. Torvald's internal dialogue was interrupted by the sudden arrival of a familiar presence. Rowan, with his measured gait and eyes that conveyed both wisdom and regret, had tracked his own path to this desolate sanctuary. "Torvald," he said, his voice a mixture of cautious hope and resigned acceptance, "we are at a crossroads. The choices we make now will determine not just the legacy of our clans, but the fate of every soul caught in this unyielding web of destiny." His words reverberated through the quiet air, mingling with the whisper of wind that rattled through broken windows. Inside that forsaken building, surrounded by echoes of a former era, Torvald and Rowan unfolded a plan that balanced on the razor's edge of desperation and promise. The objective was clear: to seek the elusive heart of winter, an ancient relic rumored to possess the power to shatter the icy chains of old vows and restore what once was lost. The relic, obscured by layers of lore and guarded by curses too formidable to name, was hidden in a sanctum that defied the boundaries of time, a secret vault beneath the modern metropolis where the forces of the natural and supernatural converged. Back in Chicago, Alan ventured to a long-forgotten library that was rumored to hold manuscripts chronicling the mystical past of the Shifter clans. The building itself was an amalgamation of Gothic architecture and contemporary decay, a repository of forgotten lore where dust danced in stray beams of afternoon light. Inside, every parchment and leather-bound tome was saturated with the weight of centuries, promising clues that could bind the fractured pieces of her identity. As she carefully studied an illuminated manuscript, her fingers traced over intricately illustrated symbols that hinted at a ceremony of unification, a ritual that could awaken dormant powers and mend the spectral rift that had long divided her kin. A hushed murmur soon spread among the archivists and scholars in the library as rumors of strange occurrences began to circulate. Shadows moved in synchrony with the rhythmic cadence of ancient incantations, and it was said that on this very day, the veil between the mortal realm and the world of the supernatural was at its thinnest. Alan's intuition surged, a deep-seated certainty that the relic was not merely an object of lore, but a linchpin in the precarious balance between salvation and damnation. At that instant, amid the rustle of delicate pages and the low hum of scholarly discussion, she resolved to seek out the lost sanctuary that housed the relic, even if it meant venturing into the darkness with little more than fragile hope as her guide. Simultaneously, voices whispered with urgency through clandestine communication channels among the Shifter clans. Messages flew across encrypted frequencies detailing the emergence of rival factions, each driven by distinct ideologies and a hunger for control over supernatural power. One particularly chilling transmission warned of a group known as the Black Veil, zealous conspirators determined to harness the relic's power to impose a brutal order over both the Shifter and human realms. As tensions escalated, loyalties were redrawn, and allies became indistinguishable from adversaries. The encroaching conflict blurred lines that had once seemed absolute, leaving Torvald, Rowan, and Alan all caught in a maelstrom of shifting allegiances. That evening, under a sky clouded in ink and flecked with shimmering stars, Alan arranged a secret meeting with a select group of trusted friends in an old speakeasy hidden beneath the bustling streets of Chicago. The establishment, its history as murky as the currents of underground rivers, was a sanctum of whispered alliances and muted defiance against the encroaching darkness. Here, she laid out her discoveries, a narrative woven from diary entries, ancient manuscripts, and the shared confessions of those who had witnessed the unraveling of a legacy. One of the confidants, a fellow Shifter named Darian, offered a grave warning: "Alan, the relic's curse is not simply a myth. To disturb its slumber is to invite calamity that we might not survive." His tone, a blend of reverence and dread, underscored the peril that lay ahead. Despite the ominous portents, Alan's determination only grew. "Redemption demands sacrifice," she declared, her voice resolute, echoing in the dimly lit corners of the room. If we are to reclaim our heritage and free Torvald from the bonds of his eternal vow, we must dare to confront the spectral adversaries of our past. Her words carried the weight of generations, stirring a reluctant courage in even the most apprehensive hearts. The assembly agreed to embark on the quest together, to navigate the treacherous underbelly of the city, to decipher cryptic clues scattered across time, and to stand united against the looming threat of the Black Veil. As midnight approached and the clandestine meeting dispersed into the shadowed labyrinth of Chicago's back alleys, Alan stepped out onto rain-drenched pavement with a mind pulsating with both apprehension and resolve. The whispered conspiracies and determined plans merged into a single visceral clarity. This was the moment of reckoning, where destiny would either cower beneath the weight of its own secrets or rise anew with the promise of change. Each raindrop that fell from the inky sky carried with it the echoes of ancient vows and the fervent prayers of souls long adrift in the void between myth and reality. In a final moment of solitude on a deserted bridge overlooking the churning river, Ellen closed her eyes and allowed the cool night breeze to caress her face. The bridge, an edifice of defiance against the relentless passage of time, symbolized the tenuous link between her fractured past and an uncertain future. In that reflective silence, she vowed to pursue the relic with unyielding determination, to confront every hidden betrayal, and to reclaim not only her lost legacy but also the light buried beneath the layers of ice within Torvald's heart. When the first hints of pre-dawn light crept over the horizon, Ellen set forth on the next leg of her journey, her path illuminated by both tangible clues and the intangible glimmer of hope. The world around her was on the cusp of transformation, a fragile equilibrium where every whispered secret, every echo of destiny, and every heartbeat promised either salvation or ruin. With the relic's secret calling to her like a siren across the centuries, Ellen stepped into the shadows of the city's ancient catacombs, prepared to face whatever trials the darkness would conjure. Unbeknownst to her, the converging paths of all who sought the relic were drawing nearer. Across the city, Torvald and Rowan had already mobilized a covert expedition toward the forgotten vault beneath the urban sprawl. Their journey was fraught with peril. Hidden traps, spectral guardians, and the ever-looming curse of the relic, which had a legacy as dark and unpredictable as the winter storms that once ravaged their ancestors' lands. The urgency of their quest pulsed like a drumbeat, a call to arms against the encroaching darkness that threatened to sever the ties between them and the vestiges of their sacred past. As the day advanced, a somber pall settled over Chicago, a tangible reminder that the window to rewrite their fate was narrow, and every passing minute brought them closer to an inevitable confrontation. The city, both modern and ancient in its heartbeat, now resonated with the murmurs of an impending battle, one in which the forces of loyalty, honor, and redemption were set to clash against a tide of betrayal and fanaticism. In the crescendo of unfolding events, as the urban landscape yielded secrets wrapped in the guise of mundane normalcy, Ellen's resolve crystallized. She was no longer merely a reluctant heir to a fractured legacy. She had become the vanguard of a quest that spanned generations. Her eyes, alight with both determination and a spark of defiant hope, were fixed on the horizon, a beacon promising that even in the darkest of nights, the light of redemption might yet triumph over the deepest despair. With the relic's fate intertwined with her own, Ellen embraced the uncertainty of the path ahead. Every step she took resonated with the promise of transformation. The relic's curse, the specters of betrayal, and the echo of ancient vows would either crumble beneath the force of her will or bind her to an inescapable destiny. As the urban maze prepared to reveal its hidden corridors, the battle between past and future, shadow and light, was poised on the brink of an irreversible climax. In the chilly prelude to nightfall, as Chicago's skyline succumbed to a deepening dusk, the clandestine forces converged on the forgotten edge of the city. The abandoned industrial district, its walls emblazoned with tags of lost eras and its corridors echoing with whispered memories, became the setting for a gathering that could unmake or remake destinies. Under a fractured moon, Ellen led a small cadre of trusted allies toward a derelict building rumored to conceal a passageway to the ancient vault where the heart of winter was hidden. Inside the building, dust motes danced in stray beams of silvery light penetrating shattered windows. Every step resonated with the gravity of forgotten promises, and the silence was punctuated only by the sound of resolute footsteps and muffled breaths. Ellen's heart pounded in a cadence mingling hope with dread. The relic, if it existed, held the power to thaw ancient curses and mend broken vows, yet could just as easily plunge them into chaos. It was here, in this mausoleum of time's passage, that secrets long buried were poised to claw their way back into the present. In the cavernous entry hall, a low murmur reverberated as the gathered group, Torvald, Rowan, Darian, Marcus, and a few other hardened members of the Shifter clans, assembled around a crumbling stone pedestal. Torvald's eyes were somber. Beneath his steely exterior lay a torrent of regret and longing, emotions buried deep by the years of his cold vow. He addressed the assembly with a tone of resolve tinged with vulnerability. "Tonight we step beyond the realm of myth. We stand at the precipice of destiny, where the ancient oath may yet be broken. Our path will be treacherous, and the vault will test more than our courage, it will test our very souls." A palpable tension wove through the room like a living entity. Darian's voice, often so measured and controlled, trembled as he added, "In the shadows something stirs, an echo of betrayal that I feared we'd never confront. I have seen hints that our own blood holds secrets so dark they could shatter any feeble hope of redemption." At this admission, all eyes turned to Marcus. Once estranged and marred by his own tainted past, he had become both a guardian of the clan's fractured history and a living reminder that even those who stray might one day seek forgiveness. His eyes, weary with regret, met Ellen's gaze. "There is a part of our lineage," Marcus confessed in a hushed tone that carried the weight of generations, "that speaks of a pact not only with the supernatural but with the dark forces beyond. A pact that binds us to an inescapable fate, a fate that may have been sealed by a betrayal so profound it alters the very course of our existence." A sudden shiver, as if the building itself recoiled from the mention of forbidden secrets, passed among the assembled. The silence was abruptly broken by a soft but insistent knocking at a hidden door along the far wall. With cautious deliberation, Torvald led the group to the secluded portal, its surface scarred by age and neglect. As they pushed it open, a narrow corridor revealed itself, a passageway that exhaled centuries of dust and disquietude. Navigating the passage with lanterns that sputtered uncertainly against the encroaching darkness, the allies descended into a subterranean chamber. Here, the vaulted ceiling arched overhead like the ribs of some ancient beast, and the walls were etched with symbols that pulsed with an eerie luminosity. At the center of the chamber, upon a dais carved from stone, lay a heavy iron-bound chest. The cold metal seemed to hum with an energy that sent tremors through the air, a prelude to the revelation that would shake them to their core. Ellen approached the chest, her fingers trembling as she traced the archaic carvings, a collage of runes and motifs that spoke of love, loss, and eternal winter. Beside her, Rowan's voice broke the silence. "This is it. The legend of the Heart of Winter, transformed by time and shrouded in every myth we dare not speak." With a solemn nod, Torvald stepped forward and retrieved a key that had been entrusted to him, passed down from ancestors whose names were interlaced with both honor and tragedy. The key, ornate and crafted of an alloy that shimmered like frozen starlight, fit perfectly into the chest's lock. The click of the mechanism echoed like a heartbeat, and with a slow, deliberate motion, the lid creaked open. Inside the chest lay not a relic fashioned of gem or metal, but a collection of meticulously bound parchment scrolls, each one a chronicle of the clan's darkest hours, of alliances formed under duress, and of betrayals that resonated like a death knell through the annals of time. As Ellen unfurled one of the scrolls, her eyes devoured the faded ink, and a shudder ran through her body. The parchment revealed details of a secret covenant, that the power to break the Alpha's eternal vow could only be unlocked when the one who bore the ultimate sin would embrace it fully. A wave of shock rippled through the chamber as the text continued. The betrayal that had fractured their family was not the work of an external enemy, but an intrinsic flaw, a choice made by someone within the clan whose identity was obscured by the mists of time. The scroll hinted that the cost of undoing the ancient curse was to face a truth that would redefine everything they thought they knew about loyalty, love, and fate. Torvald's face grew ashen as he absorbed the revelation. In a strained whisper, he murmured, "Could it be that I am the embodiment of this betrayal? That my own vow of cold detachment was a defense against a legacy of sin that I inherited?" His voice wavered with the weight of ancestral sins laid bare before him. Ellen's pulse quickened. Her eyes met his, and for a moment, the distance between them vanished. "There is a possibility," she replied softly, her voice thick with both compassion and horror. "The chains that bind you may be forged from the same lineage of betrayal that haunts us all. But with that realization, lies also our power to redefine destiny." Rowan's voice cut in, firm and resolute. "We stand at a crossroads. If the key to redemption requires you to confront this inherited curse, then your path, our path, will be paved with introspection, sacrifice, and the courage to confront a truth that many have tried to bury." A heavy silence fell again as the group absorbed the implications. The parchment's words offered both a curse and a lifeline, a chance for absolution that demanded an unyielding confrontation with the darkest corridors of their past. Each member of the assembly wrestled internally with the cost of this revelation. For Torvald, the admission could either be the spark for a long-awaited transformation or the final shackle of his doomed destiny. Suddenly, a distinct sound shattered the stillness, a clanging from deep within the labyrinth of the chamber, as if something, or someone, was stirring in response to the unveiling of the ancient truths. The sound grew louder, echoing through the vaulted space like the tolling of a monstrous bell. Shadows lengthened and danced ominously along the walls, and the air itself seemed to shiver with anticipation. Before anyone could react, a figure emerged from behind a pillar, cloaked in a mantle as dark as the secrets that had just been laid bare. It was a lone shifter whose presence exuded a refined yet menacing aura. His eyes, alight with a predatory gleam, scanned the room with calculated precision. "You have unraveled what was meant to remain shrouded," he declared in a measured tone that commanded both awe and apprehension. "The truth of our ancestry is a double-edged blade, one that cuts both the bonds of duty and the ties of family." Torvald's voice rang out, tinged with both defiance and fear. "Who are you to cast judgment on the sins of our forefathers?" The newcomer's smile was both enigmatic and unsettling. "I am the reckoning that your lineage has long tried to escape," he replied. "The covenant was sealed not solely by fate, but by a series of choices that continue to echo in the actions of today. I come as a reminder that the path to redemption is inextricably linked to accepting the darkest parts of oneself, even those parts that you, Torvald, have denied for so long." Ellen, absorbing the gravity of his words, stepped forward. "If redemption requires us to face our truths head-on, then we must not falter. We must embrace the full spectrum of our legacy, the light and the shadow alike. Only then can we overcome the curse that has plagued our kind for centuries." The tension escalated as the stranger's eyes flickered with something that seemed like both malice and sorrow. "But beware," he cautioned, "for the journey forward is not solely one of introspection but of sacrifice. To shatter the bonds of the ancient curse, one of you must willingly walk the path of transgression, a choice that will mark the turning point of your future." A charged silence enveloped the group, each member grappling with the enormity of this challenge. The stranger's words implied that the answers they had sought, and the redemption they desired, came at an unbearable personal cost. Torvald's mind raced. Was the key to breaking his eternal vow to accept a mantle of guilt that had been passed down through endless generations? Could he bear the burden of a sin he never consciously chose? Yet the alternative, a life imprisoned by a chilling vow and a legacy of betrayal, seemed equally unbearable. At that decisive moment, the stranger extended a hand toward Torvald. "Your destiny awaits your embrace. Only through the ultimate act of self-confrontation can the cycle be broken." His invitation was both a challenge and an ultimatum, a way to transcend the darkness or be forever ensnared by it. Tears glimmered in Torvald's eyes as he hesitated, his gaze flickering between the stranger and Ellen. The pain of 1,000 untold stories, of sacrifices made and love forsaken, surged within him. Slowly, with trembling resolve, he reached out and placed his palm in the stranger's outstretched hand, a gesture loaded with both defiance and surrender. In that electrifying moment, the chamber trembled. The ancient symbols on the walls flared with a fierce luminescence as if awakened by the union of fate and choice. The scrolls within the chest began to emit a soft, resonant hum that reverberated through every stone and beam, marking the commencement of a transformation that would redefine the lives of all gathered. The power of the relic, the heart of winter, now understood as both a literal and metaphorical force, coursed through Torvald like a torrent. He shuddered as the icy essence of his vow began to crumble, replaced by a rising current of anguish and hope. "Ellen, Roa, forgive me," Torvald murmured, his voice barely audible over the resounding pulse of ancient power. "I must bear the stain of this legacy so that we might finally forge a new beginning." As the chamber exploded in a flurry of light and shadow, the boundaries between the supernatural and the mortal blurred. The stranger's cryptic presence receded into the darkness, leaving behind an echoing promise that the journey to redemption was far from over. In that sacred crucible, Torvald's transformation became a beacon, a spark that not only threatened to melt the eternal ice encasing his heart but also illuminated a path toward healing for all who carried the scars of ancestral betrayal. In the tense aftermath, as the power subsided and reality reasserted itself, each member of the group was left to confront the raw truth of their existence. The ancient covenant had been challenged. The legacy of sin and redemption now lay bare for all to see. With their fates irrevocably intertwined, They understood that the journey ahead would test their bonds, their courage, and the very fabric of their souls. Stepping out into the cool night air, under a vast and uncertain sky, Ellen's eyes met Torvald's with renewed determination. Though the past was fraught with unspeakable burdens, the promise of a future unshackled from ancient curses now glimmered on the horizon. The secrets of the past had been exhumed, the betrayals confronted, and a transformative choice had been made. Yet the heavy burden of destiny lingered, as did the haunting realization that every resolution demanded its own sacrifice. For in that twilight of revelation and penance, the embers of redemption ignited a fervor that would carry them toward the final reckoning, a reckoning that promised either liberation or the irreversible dissolution of all they held dear. In the gathering gloom before dawn, Chicago's sprawling skyline became a silent witness to the last act of an ancient drama. The echoes of tormented vows and shattered legacies converged as all the disparate threads of fate were pulled together into one inexorable climax. Amid the labyrinthine corridors of the long-forgotten vault, where the relic had first whispered of redemption and peril, Ellen now stood at the threshold of a defining transformation, a decision that would forever rewrite her destiny and that of her kind. The chamber, still humming with residual energy from the earlier rites, glowed dimly as if illuminated by the heavy burden of ancestral memory. Torvald, visibly transformed by his earlier act of contrition, now appeared as a man caught between anguished regret and a nascent hope. His once impenetrable facade had finally begun to melt away, revealing the raw vulnerability of a soul burdened by centuries of inherited guilt. He looked to his companions, Rowan, Darian, and Marcus, and finally to Ellen, whose determination shone like a guiding beacon even amidst the flickering interplay of light and shadow. Rowan stepped forward, his voice resonant with a mix of solemnity and anticipation. Every ritual, every sacrifice has led us to this pivotal moment. The ancient covenant demanded a reckoning, but it has also offered us a pathway to reclaiming our true essence. Ellen's heart pounded as she recalled the whispered secrets of her family's past, a tapestry intricately woven with love, betrayal, and the ever-persistent quest for forgiveness. The diary, which had been her constant companion through the cascade of revelations, lay open at her side. Its cryptic passages now held a newfound clarity. In its ink and paper, she discerned a prophecy that had long been dismissed as mere myth. Only through the acceptance of one's darkest truth can the bonds that keep us chained be broken. At that moment, a gentle, almost imperceptible vibration began to emanate from the chest of scrolls. The age-worn parchment, imbued with the power of generations, unfurled a new fragment of text, a final testament from an ancestor whose pain and hope had echoed across the ages. It spoke of a secret long concealed, a twist that defied every expectation. The very curse that had tormented their lineage was not solely a burden, but also a key. The curse itself was meant to be challenged, for it contained the spark of liberation hidden in its darkest recesses. An unexpected revelation washed over the assembly. The voice from the shadows, a presence whose ominous warning earlier had stirred dread, now took on a different dimension. The stranger reappeared, stepping quietly into the circle of light. His features, once shrouded in menace, revealed traces of sorrow and compassion. "My purpose," he intoned softly, "was never solely to condemn, but to test the strength of your legacy. The sin that you bear is not an immutable mark of damnation, but a challenge to overcome." His words, both startling and liberating, cascaded over the group like a bomb. Torvald's eyes filled with tears as he absorbed this radical reorientation of fate. "Are you saying that this betrayal, my betrayal, is not the end but the beginning of our ascent?" he asked, his voice trembling with the simultaneous weight of despair and hope. The stranger nodded slowly, and in his eyes, Ellen saw a glimmer of redemption that transcended the boundaries of time. "Yes," he replied. "The covenant was designed to test your willingness to embrace your full self, the light, the love, and the darkness within. Only by accepting every part of your past can you pave the road to a future unburdened by ancient feuds." The implications of his words rippled through the room. In that charged silence, each member of the group felt the gravity of the decision before them. It was no longer a simple quest to retrieve a physical relic. It was an alchemical process of inner transmutation. The shifters had been locked in an endless cycle of isolation and sorrow, shackled by the very promises intended to protect them. Now, with the revelation that the curse was as much a key to transformation as it was a prison of sorrow, they were offered a chance to break the cycle. Ellen stepped forward, her gaze sweeping over the gathered souls. "We have all been caught in a web woven by our ancestors, a web of secrets, promises, and betrayals," she declared, her voice unwavering despite the tumult swirling inside her. Today we stand at the crossroads of our past and future. To truly be free, we must not only unmask the sins that have haunted us but also integrate them into the tapestry of who we are. This is our moment to redefine legacy, where pain becomes the impetus for change and remorse transforms into unyielding strength. The chamber's atmosphere grew palpably charged as the ancient scrolls began to emit a soft luminescence. Each face in the room reflected a dawning realization that redemption was attainable not by erasing the past, but by reclaiming it. Marcus, once a symbol of estrangement and fractured loyalties, now embraced his role as the keeper of their collective truth. Our ancestors imbued us with a resilience that transcends time, he murmured, a fervor igniting his usually measured tone. Their mistakes are not our destiny. We are the architects of a future where every fall may lead to a rise greater than before. As the luminescence intensified, it signified not an end, but a cleansing. A moment where the accumulated sorrows and regrets were transmuted into a radiant potential. Torvald, emboldened by this transformative promise, took a deep breath and extended his hand once more, not to the stranger but toward Ellen. I choose to accept my past and the weight of my sins, he said, his voice clear and resolute. And in doing so I choose to break the cycle. For our legacy need not be defined by betrayal, but by the strength to rise above it. At that moment, the energy within the chamber coalesced into a vortex of warm light, as if the very air was being cleansed by the collective will of those present. The once ominous symbols etched upon the walls blossomed into representations of unity, echoing the collective embrace of all parts of the self, both light and shadow. The ritual had transcended its original form, becoming a profound act of healing and rebirth. Outside, as the first rays of a hopeful dawn broke over the horizon, the city awoke to a changed world. The urban sprawl, once a cold battleground of survival, now resonated with the soft warmth of renewal. Ellen, standing at the precipice of this new reality, felt the icy chains of her ancestors shatter into countless fragments that glimmered like stardust. The burdens of legacy were lifted, replaced by the promise of reinvention and the comforting embrace of redemption. In an unexpected twist that defied the rigid narratives of old, it was revealed that every heart carried both the mark of ancient transgressions and the potential for unfathomable forgiveness. The curse, symbolized by the eternal vow of cold detachment, was not an immutable decree but a call to introspection, a challenge that, once met, could dismantle the barriers between generations. The revelation struck a chord deep within each of them. The power to transform lay not in reviling the past, but in understanding and embracing it wholly. As the gathering dispersed into the awakening city, each individual carried with them a renewed sense of purpose. The ancient pact had been not only challenged, but also irrevocably altered. There was now an unspoken understanding that the future would be crafted with honesty, vulnerability, and the willingness to see beauty even in brokenness. The once oppressive legacy of betrayal had been transmuted into a profound lesson, that the scars of the past, when acknowledged and healed, could forge an unbreakable bond of unity and resilience. Ellen took one last lingering look at the chamber, its walls still pulsing with the residual glow of reconciliation. In that reflective moment, a quiet confidence settled over her, a certainty that no matter the path ahead, the journey would be one of truth, compassion, and transformation. The city, with its vibrant pulse and ever-changing skyline, now served as the canvas upon which a new, inclusive narrative would be painted, one that honored both the light and the darkness of the human soul. The final notes of the ancient prophecy echoed softly in the background, a reminder that every end begets a new beginning. With each step forward, the shifters carried with them the hard-won truth that destiny was not a preordained fate, but a mosaic crafted by the choices of those brave enough to embrace every fragment of their being. In the cool embrace of the rising sun, they moved forward, not as mere survivors of an ancient curse, but as harbingers of a future where redemption was not just possible but inevitable. The urban expanse, once shrouded in cold indifference, now shimmered with the promise of warmth and unity. As Ellen and her allies merged with the waking pulse of the city, their spirits soared with the knowledge that, in embracing their fractured past, they had unlocked the true power of transformation. In that climactic moment, under the first light of a hopeful day, every heart that had once been ensnared by ancient vows now beat with the liberation of a redeemed legacy.